It is something that no one anticipated, and Hollywood has yet to figure out how to take care of it. The birth date of Keanu Reeves was Beirut, September 2, 1964. His Samuel's father was Hawaiian Chinese. Patricia, his mother, was British. They met when Samuel was 21 years old in Beirut, and Patricia was only 19. Patricia was at work in designing costumes, and Samuel was juggling multiple jobs and already leading an untamed life. The name Keanu means cool. Hawaiian breeze over the mountains. His formative years, however, were anything but serene. 3 weeks after Keanu's birth, the family relocated to Sydney. 1 year Samuel later disappeared from their life entirely. When Keanu turned around 3, Patricia was now residing in New York, bringing him up by themselves, and that was only the beginning of their never-ending movement. Keanu's dad was heavily involved in drug use while he vanished. However, Keanu continued to pay him visits in Hawaii until his 13th birthday. There it was an odd final encounter in 1977. They simply sat in silence among the skies, and afterward Samuel dropped him off the following day at the airport. That was it. He didn't see ends more. Years later, when asked where his father was, Keanu replied he felt as though the ground had engulfed him. After Samuel was imprisoned, Keanu didn't even know. The psychological harm was irreversible. Patricia attempted to construct a solid existence, but her romantic life continued. Things are difficult. Broadway was her spouse. Paul Aaron, director, 1970, only that lasted for a year. She then got married in 1976. Robert Miller, a rock promoter. They possessed a Karina, the daughter. Her fourth came later, Jack Bond's husband, a salon proprietor. That concluded in 1994. In the meanwhile, her work in showbiz introduced a variety of odd glimpses into Keanu's early years. They lived close to Toronto's Nimbus 9 studio. Rock stars came and departed from there. Alice Cooper babysat him once. He'd get to know Emmylou Harris. He got to know Dolly Parton, too. However, none of that made him feel rooted. Keanu was 17 at that point. He had experienced 4 distinct highs. Educational institutions. He was kicked out of one OFA Tobacco School of the Arts, for example, causing too much disturbance. In De La Salle became a hockey goaltender in college and acquired the moniker The Wall. However, his dyslexia made learning challenging. Reading was a hardship, and he said that he was always like a stranger. His final visit to Andale School, he gave it all up. He never attained a high school degree. He dropped out and instead resorted to acting. In 1992, when Keanu was gaining popularity in Hawaii, his father was detained for attempting to sell heroin. He had big quantities of cocaine as well. He received 10 years, but only spent 2 years behind bars. Guards saw him favorably because he even received his GED and incarcerated. He was once informed that he broke down after dying in a collision. He was crying, but he never made contact. He never heard from Keanu again. Samuel passed away in 2018 and is still distant. At 15, Hana was struggling to keep her composure at school. Because of his dyslexia, he felt lost in class, and he frequently faked incompetent stuff. He was dismissed because being impetuous and noisy. At Andale, he was unable to keep up. As he put it, I struggled with reading, so I wasn't a good student. He began to behave as though live. It wasn't just for show. Stage. No longer. It turned into a lifestyle. During his teenage years, hockey was his getaway. He was an excellent goalie. He considered playing professionally, might even qualify for the Olympics. However, then he brutally broke his ankle. Mishap. He claimed to be able to see the bone. His fantasy abruptly came to an end. With no other option, he resorted to acting. Keanu landed his first television job in Hanging In as a Canadian television program. He portrayed a disturbed teenager. The peculiar aspect was he indeed a disturbed teenager in actual life. He was struggling with anxiousness and loneliness brought on by all the relocation, the turmoil and he would playing hockey with pals to help him relax. He received a theater that same year, taught in the bizarre drama Wolf Boy in Toronto. It was contentious and fierce. His performance was unpolished, tangible and enduring. A few sequences turned into regional myths. This was Thethy once he began to draw attention. He took his vehicle to Hollywood in 1985 to pursue his aspirations of performing, but agencies informed him his name was too unfamiliar. They decided to have him alter it to something more American, such as Chuck or Casey. In the meanwhile, he went by Keanu Reeves, but in the end, he declined. He stated it felt bad about hiding his identity, that his path was molded by his decision. His breakthrough arrived with the film Riverside. The role he performed had to coping with a friend's murder, that the story was inspired by a true crime. Keanu felt it, not simply acted it out. It brought to mindred him of all the anguish and alienation he carried within. 1989 saw him cast in Ted and Bill's Wonderful Adventure. He first tried out for the position of, however, the director replaced him with Ted Du of The Rapport with co-star Alex Winter. They even largely improvised the scenes. The originally screenplay was written on napkins. It was predicted to become a cult favorite. Point Break followed. In 1991, Keanu moans of training to become a surfer. He almost drowned multiple times. He received training, with FBI personnel as well. Additionally, Evan quarterback coaches. He sacrificed everything to that position. Following the film, he maintains the film forever. In 1986, he shot Trump's hockey film Young Blood Patrick and Low Seas. He performed a golly once more. He performed every stunt on his own. Pucks flew at 90 miles per hour. He didn't make use of a stunt double. That movie demonstrated how he was serious. He would take any chance for the narrative. In 1994, while filming, Keanu Reeves didn't want his stunt speed, completing his work twice. He ultimately did around 90% of all scenes that are threat. Among the most memorable one occurred when the bus had to cross the street. A hole in the road. However, during one off, something went wrong with those stunts. He was launched when the bus broke down, almost 20 feet in the air. He struck the crushed firmly, broke 2 ribs, and received a brain injury. He kept the director in the dark. Since he wished for them to continue, he simply continued. Things became worse when an actual highway was used for filming. Close to San Diego. Nobody informed the cast that there would be real cars involved. Abruptly, the bus began colliding with actual automobiles. Keanu stated the passengers yelled in genuine terror, since none anticipated it. However, he pushed through. Additionally, when speed struck, it earned $350 million at theaters. Globally, although it only costs that. Movie cost about $30 million to make. Made him a real-life action star. However, in the background it almost broke him. Then a startling event occurred. Following Speed was a big success. Warner Brothers offered Keanu a $75 million deal. It comprised back-end earnings on commerce rights. However, he declined. He did not even blinked. It has nothing to do with tech. He simply did not wish to be He was a firm believer in integrity. To the labor, not the salary. Later on, he even turned down $11 million in 1997 for Speed 2. In order for him to participate in the film, the Devil's Advocate provided a chance for him to display a different aspect of, according to his own agency, it was career suicide. However, Keanu had faith in acting on instinct rather than apparency and linked on paper. In order to get Al Pacino to board for the opposing viewpoint, he then consented to a significant pay reduction. He simply wished for the tale to succeed. His prior Shakespearean effort in the 1993 film The Outcome of Much Ado About Nothing wasn't favorable. His performance felt stiff, according to critics, and not natural. He had trouble with Helene. However, there was something that critics were unaware. Keanu was dyslexic. His co-star Emma Thompson also did. After a while, 2 of them remained up late shoots, supporting one another's reading and comprehend the intricate jargon. She helped him acquire the ability to speak those lines, and their bond deepened. Stronger as they both comprehended how difficult it was. That film might have shamed him in public, but in private, it taught him how to persevere despite when you think you're going to Then Johnny Mnemonic entered. 1995 and all the potential problems. The film began with a $26 million spending plan, but following Speed's success, Sony attempted to make it a blip. Keanu got into a fight with the director of everything from the casting for the action sequences. He even left the set 2 times. The filmmaker later referred to the entire situation as corrupt, and the film was intended to be Bettany and intelligent, according to William Gibson's Tale of Cyberpunk, but it got transformed into something else. They invested far more funds than anticipated, and the Nobody's final version matched. It lost over $100 million worldwide. Keanu subsequently acknowledged that his large aspirations to use modern technology in the film wasn't prepared for the actual world when in 1997, The Devil's Advocate was published. People saw a fresh dimension in Keanu's. Most people were unaware that he was in actual discomfort and was pulling. When he last saw him, it was while traveling to Hawaii at the age of 13. Together, they observed the night sky, and his father was gone the following morning. Nepal's no medical records, simply disappeared. Keanu carried that suffering around 4 years. As an advocate for the devil, he put that pain into each scene. Al Pacino performed a twisting fatherly figure. Acting instructors took note how much Keanu invested in those feelings while he didn't discuss it. He referred to the compliments as mere flattery, as though he didn't want to allow the thanks for the compliments. The Matrix followed. In 1998, a few weeks before to the start of filming, Keanu required urgent spinal surgery. The harm had accumulated from years of sports and motorbike accidents. He was unable to even walk appropriately, but he remained silent and continued. Includes instruction. He had a brace on his neck. Beneath his clothing when he discovered the choreography for a fight. A few of his stiffness wasn't acting in the film. It was the ache. The group had to reorganize the filming schedule to allow for his recuperation. However, he didn't mention to the studio how awful it was. He feared that they may replace. In 1999, The Matrix was released. It permanently altered the film industry. The bullet time effect rose to fame. The film $63 million to produce, and Keanu was paid $10 million in advance. However, what headed next caught everyone off guard. He provided away a significant portion of his income. He distributed his earnings to the special stunt squad and effects crew, providing some bonuses totaling approximately $1 million each. Studio executives believed it to be crazy, but he didn't give a damn. He desireth individuals working behind the scenes to be treated similarly to the stars. Following the courting to Keanu, the trilogy made $1.8 billion. Discovering Warner Brothers had tampered with figures. They were being reported earnings to keep him from being paid what he was. He filed a lawsuit in 2001. He asserted that the studio employed dubious accounting strategies to prevent about $100 million in leftovers. They silently made themselves at home. Of court, and Keanu included provisions in safeguard his upcoming transactions. However, the entire something further separated him from the Hollywood's business side. He desired to act rather than quarrel over money. The Matrix. In the 2002 movie Reloaded, Keanu pushed his body once more. The focal point was a 14-minute pursuit sequence on the highway. A complete freeway was constructed just for the filming. The majority of the stunts, he drove himself. Occasionally surpassing 85 in Pontine. In one incident, an automobile flipped 180 degrees. He walked away from it, but not without getting hurt. The whiplash was severe. He required counseling and endured years of neck discomfort, for he considered utilizing a stunt for a second. Matrix Revolutions doubles but hadn't. As all of this was going on, Kim, his sister, was standing up for her. Life. She was suffering from leukemia. She received diagnosed in 1991, and for a decade and a half, Keanu was by her side. He sold his home nearer to her. He invested $5 million in Then, following The Matrix gave him millions, more than $31 million to studies on cancer. He didn't put his name on any of them. He even established a private charity that maintained. Nobody was aware of it until Asylant's interview in 2009. He didn't say anything. In public, Keanu Reeves left by means of something that most performers would have give up. While he was filming in 2005, Constantine wanted to look like an old-fashioned exorcist. That involved wearing a lot of makeup every day. However, his skin was scorched by the chemicals in it. It received his neck and face were so badly covered in blisters and red welts. Physicians advised him to cease. He didn't pay attention. He wouldn't even utilize a body double for the scenes of fire. Fire aggravated the situation by scorching his flesh, but he continued. He continued to smoke actual cigarettes on the set in order to remain in character despite the slowdown recovery. The shoot had to end multiple times to allow him to recuperate, and that alone added $2 to the film's cost, in addition to its $100 million spending plan. However, what wounded him the most didn't occur on a movie set. On the 24th of December, 1999, right before the end of the worldview, Keanu's true world in The Matrix broken. He and his girlfriend Jennifer Sim has a baby on the way, Ava. They had already decided on a name. However, at 8 months old on Christmas Eve, Ava no warning had been given. Jennifer had been in perfect health. The infant's space was prepared. The news crushed them. Jennifer sobbed because so badly that she needed assistance. Correct? Away Keanu vanished from the public eye for practically a year. He refused so many film deals, such as those that $20 million would have been given to him, that the relationship was unable to withstand the suffering, despite their affection for one another. Grief took above everything. In a few weeks they had drifted away. Then the time arrived when completed what little recovery he had left. April 2, 2001. Shortly after Jennifer passed away at 6 in the morning in a vehicle collision. Her Jeep crashed into the parking lot. Vehicles on Los Angeles' Kenner Boulevard, the same street that Keanu had previously speed scenes were filmed for speed shedded, not use a seatbelt. The policy discovered to rolled up white powder and back pain medication from a previous mishap. Only a day before April 1st, Keanu and her had been in San Francisco together. They had spoken. They possessed established contact. Their last day was the one. The coroner's office was contacted by Keanu inquiring as to whether Jennifer Sim was present. He inquired even though he already knew the answer. In any case, he disappeared on that day. On an emotional level, he starred in the 2006 film A weird cartoon movie called Scanner Darkly, where it all appears to be a dream. He portrayed a man who was losing his identity and mind to a substance. It wasn't merely a performance. He was the one. He put all of his genuine suffering into. He even said unintentional lines. The screenplay, he discussed losing all of it, and it didn't seem to. Later, the filmmaker stated the scenes were so unvarnished that they altered the entire film. The movie turned out to be concerning those who have endured excessive suffering. Keanu recognized Jennifer in that. The animation style seemed appropriate for his mood. Mind trapped in two different realms, no tactually in either. In 2008, however, the day out came, the earth stood still. Rotten Tomatoes gave it a score of 21%. Ether spent $245 million on advertising. However, after earning $233 million, it was a defeat. According to critics, Keanu looked vacant in the position. However, what they didn't knew that he actually felt that way life. He didn't even appear to advertise the movie. He was an extraterrestrial who didn't comprehend people, since that's how he felt, as though he no longer belonged. In 2014, a change occurred. He logged on to perform John Wick. He pushed at the age of 50.